Hello everybody, it's black to play in this position. Black is down 2 pawns. How would you defend this position with the black pieces? That's my question. Today we are talking about the art of doing nothing. Our life is so fast, our modern life is so demanding. We are multitasking, we are listening to podcasts in 2 times speed. We feel like time is passing so quickly. We feel like we should do stuff at all times with super rapid pace. You must be feeling it. I'm feeling it myself sometimes, right? I'm writing courses, doing videos, thinking constantly about my next project all the time, right? But sometimes in life, also in chess, the best thing is just to do nothing, right? And I will show you some interesting positions today that prove my point. We will see when we can wait instead of lashing out, either with pawn moves, exchanges, or not keeping the tension on the board, or as in this position, we will see how black should have defended this position. Okay, so if you spend some time in this position, I'm pretty sure you noticed that the only way for black to defend here is to stabilize and keep his knight on e5. That's our best piece. No one can touch this knight on e5, right? It's an outpost square, and the bishop is a bad piece for white. So if black just waits in this position and just does nothing, black will save this position. That's a fortress if black waits and does nothing. But in the actual game, black couldn't wait, and he lashed out with the move knight g6. He was chasing after this blockading square with knight. And look what happened here. a7 came, knight e7, rook a6, beautiful move, freezing this knight. And after king g6, a tactical error, bishop takes b5, and black got destroyed. I will show you the moves until the very end. Black got destroyed, white won a nice game. Congratulations, the white player who was one of my students. He won a beautiful game here. But the problem is this. If black didn't act and just waited, white had no breakthrough. We can have a look at some lines. Rook a7, stopping the pawn. Black just waits, right? King g7, rook a3. If you pay close attention, white has no entry square for the king. The white rook is actually paralyzed in defending the pawn, and the bishop is terrible in defending stuff, and the bishop cannot support the passed pawn. If you just take a step back and ask yourself whether action was needed, you would understand that black should not have any action, just wait, because that's a fortress, right? And if white even goes for this, then black can even take the pawn and come back to e5. You can understand there is no breakthrough for white. Going back to this position, right? How do we get better at this part of the game that we sometimes know that not taking action is the best? Just sitting on our position is the best. The art of doing nothing. Now, obviously, there are so many cognitive biases. We humans want to act rather than wait. We feel like we should do something all the time. Also in a chessboard, right? You must feel sometimes that it's very difficult for us to just wait and do nothing, because we feel like we are worsening our position or something is coming at us, right? It's like this action bias, you might even call that. This manifests itself lots of times when it comes to pawn moves, guys. I will show you some interesting examples where people lash out with their pawns and make extremely committal errors. Let's talk about pawn moves, guys. In this position, black, if he does nothing and simply does bishop f6 followed by rook e8, he would have an okay game. But in the actual game, black sees the rook on d4 and black feels like attacking that rook with the pawn move c5. And that's also very common, right? People push their pawns just to attack something momentarily for a single move. That's a very common error for amateur players, for beginners, right? People just shamelessly play with their pawns for a single attack. They don't consider, for example, which squares is being given away as a result of that pawn move. And obviously, you just allow knight d5, and voila, the knight is thanking you for giving you that outpost, and suddenly that is a beautiful position for white. White gains the upper hand. Beautiful knight on d5 plus the weakness on d6. We can take and later pile up on that weakness on d6. White got a huge advantage for no reason. Black gave it away with the chess crime c5. I made a chessboard course about this, chess crime and punishment. It's full of such unforced strategic mistakes that I witnessed over and over again at amateur games, right? So black acts, black doesn't wait, and black is punished for that beautifully. Another committal pawn move by black in this position was, can you guess it? f5. This is a huge blunder, and the only idea to my mind is to go for this cheapo, right? A single fork by the pawn that caused black to lose objectivity, because if you take a step back here, ask yourself, what is going on? Opposite color bishops, well, white has better pieces, and black should be careful in not giving away further weaknesses on the king side. By pushing f5, he's making this bishop so much more happier. He's weakening those dark squares around his king. He's actually even blocking his bishop over there. And after a simple queen f4, for example, I'm stopping your threat. Well, this f5 pawn would rather like to be on f6 back again, right? This would blunt the bishop, for example, right? You see that black wanted to take action by going for this fork idea. It looks aggressive, it looks active. In fact, black just destroyed his own position by pushing that pawn to f5. Another example, guys. It's white to play here. I want you to take a step back and tell me, how would you play this position with white? It's a quiet position, right? We are talking about positional chess. I want you to make a simple decision here with the white pieces. Guys, let's go through this together, okay? White has space advantage. Look at all the pawns that are giving us all the great space all over the board. Yeah, on the queen side, on the king side, we are stopping the b5 break. Just look how badly placed those black minor pieces are. They are suffocating in this pawn structure. But we have all the ground to maneuver our badly placed knights. I hope you saw your badly placed knights here, folks. These are really, really terrible pieces, but white has all the time in the world, all the time and space in the world to activate those pieces, right? So a super simple mini plan would be to look at one of your knights and improve them. Maybe knight f3, right? Maybe this knight would like to go here. I'm not sure. Maybe knight g3 to f5 ideas. Or maybe you can tell me some other ideas, right? I mean, we can discuss how can these knights be improved. But these knights should be improved in this position, and white should not hurry. White should really, really do nothing and simply improve those knights. In the actual game, white player lashed out with the move f4. All the pawn moves are committal, and he's engaging in a pawn break that is extremely committal. Can you tell me, for example, folks, what are the drawbacks of this move f4? I'm talking about piece activity, also about the opponent's pieces. Right? Talking about the opponent's pieces, you can already tell me that these three pieces love to see this f4 move, guys. Can you please understand the connection between this f4 break and the activity of those three pieces for black? That's too much. If one of your pawn moves are activating three of the enemy pieces, well, that should be generally strategically incorrect, right? So that's exactly what happened after f4. Because what f4 does, which pieces get happy? None of these knights get happier after f4, right? You can say maybe this bishop slightly, but this bishop was already a good piece. And if you take back on f4, after takes, obviously, right? Black will take. Yes, your bishop hits d6, you might say, but that will never be an issue because basically black will blockade. Black will hit the bishop directly. Plus, black is the one who is activating his bishop, activating his rook, even activating his knight on d7, right? Just look at the effect of this pawn structure transformation, guys. That's a very typical error, again, in amateur level, club player levels all the time. People play with, like, make a pawn break and make the opponent's pieces happy as a result. Here you see, right, all three pieces of black found life. They have awakened basically as a result. Black can even go further, bishop h4, stopping g3, right, then get a knight on e5. You see what's coming basically in this position. Black gets great play on those dark squares. You created play for black, plus you actually weaken your e4 pawn on a semi-open file. Talking about committal pawn breaks, folks, we have to go back to this. That's a very instructive position to understand, right? Sometimes you don't make a pawn break, just because it looks like an active option for white. Yes, you have the f4 break in a position, but doesn't mean that you should play it instantly, right? You can prepare it. You should be patient. And when you have so much extra space, you should be patient because you have static advantages, right? The opponent has no pawn breaks. The opponent has zero counterplay. So in those positions, you should be just like Karpov, right? Enjoy the position a little bit. Enjoy rather than lashing out. Again, that's a activity bias in this case for white. He sees his f4 break, he lashes out with f4, but only helps the black pieces. Another problem many people face in chess is that they break the tension too early. Check this example, folks. The knight is pinned. Black has beautiful pieces, maximum pressure on that knight. Black has great play. White is suffering. All of their minor pieces are tied down. White is paralyzed. I want you to first of all analyze the situation, the orientation phase, goal setting, right? So given this orientation, black should not release the tension, right? Just logically, black should pile up on f3 rather than taking on f3 twice. That's exactly what happened in the actual game. Black took twice, and suddenly it was white who was slightly better because white is 2 minors for a rook. You solved all of white's problems on the king side. That pin knight disappeared, and all of the paralyzed pieces disappeared. Just look at this. This knight is paralyzed. It cannot move because of the pin. This queen is paralyzed because she has to guard the loose knight on f3. This rook is paralyzed because he needs to guard the knight on f3. By engaging in this trade, yes, you won an exchange, but you solved all of white problems, right? And suddenly, my student was suffering in this endgame. It's a beautiful example, folks, going back in those situations when you have the advantage of the pin, for example, or tension is favoring you, just like here. You should be patient. You should, for example, make the most simple moves, even rook d8, for example, or even queen f6 or queen f4, right? How do I put more pressure on that knight rather than liquidating it directly? As a final example, I will show you a game that I witnessed today, guys. It's a very fresh example. Black to play. How would you treat this endgame? Okay, that's my first question. What is your goal? Are you playing for a win? Are you playing for a draw? Well, you tell me. Maybe you can set your goal properly. Then we can discuss. Guys, in this position, objectively, black is fighting for a draw. Because of the ability of the knight. The knight's a very strong piece and the bishop has no clear targets. But there is no way for white to make progress. Black is a very good king and it's very difficult for knight to attack g5 and just take it. So if black just waits with bishop c5 and does nothing, then black is having complete equality in this position. Okay? That's easy to see. White has no way to make progress. White also has all the time needs to worry about this g4 break, right? So this king is also cannot really go forward all the way like this, yeah? If we blockade anyways, it won't be easy for white. But going back to this position, guys, can you guess which move black made in a classical game? Yes, black, after not so much time of thinking, played the move g4. Now, that's a very committal move. Again, another pawn move, by the way, that needs to be properly calculated. Can you, for example, tell me, guys, after h takes g4, what should black do? Should black recapture or should black push the pawn to h4? And again, this is a decision that you can only make by pure calculation. So you can stop the video right now. That's a nice calculation exercise. And please, for example, can you tell me whether h4 is working for black or not? Can you please calculate some moves? Folks, h4 was the game continuation, but it doesn't work. And can you tell me why? Beautiful. King e2. After h3, beautiful. King f1. And the king simply stops the pawn, right? The pawn is stopped. And white suddenly ends up with an extra pawn with all the great winning chances, right? The knight will hop around and support the pawn on g4. The knight will hit the pawns on h2 even if the bishop does this, right? It's a suffering for black in this position. So by reacting in this position, by trying to play actively without proper calculation, black destroyed his position with the move g4, and especially after h4, because if black recaptures, even this is actually a drawing position for black. Black will suffer, right? Again, black is making his task difficult, but black, if he finds this move, bishop d4, will manage to save the draw in this position, right? But all of this was not needed. Black should have just waited his position. That's a fortress. There is no way for white to break through. But you see, you're playing a game that's also very common. Oh, this looks beautiful. This g4 looks beautiful. I will play and see what happens, right? That's the mindset sometimes that I see sometimes. Oh, I witnessed something. It's like a beautiful resource. Yes. Oh my God, my pawn is queening. And people get excited. People doesn't try to falsify their ideas like a scientist. In those cases, they lash out. They sometimes first play and then calculate. That's like the worst possible scenario. And well, the pawn is stopped and then you're basically suffering. Let's finish this lesson with a homework position that will give a segue to one of my future videos, folks. Scotch opening, okay? Let's look at Scotch opening. d4, takes. The question is this. Should black take on d4, or should black just do nothing in this position and develop another piece? I hope you like this lesson, folks. The reason I'm doing this video is because I want to help you. I've seen this kind of problems over and over again as a coach. People like to play actively, they make committal pawn moves, committal exchanges, they cannot keep attention for even like a single move, right? But sometimes the best we can do is just to do nothing, right? Like a Buddhistic mentality like Alan Watts, right? Or Lao Tzu. I'm sure there are so many quotes you can come up with, right? Of inaction is better than action. Also in life sometimes, right? Oh, I would love to, just take a step back and read a book. Sometimes it's so difficult because we feel like we should do something all the time in our modern world, right? So let's try to apply this lesson next time that you're about to make a very committal decision in chess. Please remind yourself this question, that whether an action is even necessary. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. That's very important for me, folks, to grow this channel and to produce similar content for you. I noticed that there are only 50% of the people that are watching my channel regularly that are subscribed yet. Please click on the subscribe button if you like it, folks. That's really, really important for me. And I thank you in advance for your time. And I will catch you on the next episode for very similar subjects. Bye-bye.